There's a kind of silence that only shows up when you're in your own space. Not the dull, dragging silence of having nothing to do, and not the aching silence of being left out, but the soft kind that wraps around you like a blanket. It's when you notice the fridge humming, the fan pushing air, a clock somewhere keeping time, and your body finally believes, no one needs me anywhere else right now. That moment isn't loneliness, it's safety. It's your nervous system letting its shoulders drop. A lot of people misread that. From the outside, someone who likes to stay home looks detached. Friends assume they're antisocial, scared, or lacking ambition. The world labels them closed off. But for some people, staying home isn't hiding. It's returning. Outside, everything is comparison, speed, noise, performances. You're measured, watched, and sometimes judged. Out there, you give versions of yourself. At home, you get yourself back. For many, that preference didn't appear out of nowhere in adulthood. It started in the loud places of childhood, the buzzing classroom, the school bus where everyone talked at the same time, the cafeteria where you had to raise your voice just to exist. Those places taught you early that survival sometimes meant acting bigger than you felt. Speak so they hear you, laugh so they like you, smile so they don't ask what's wrong. You played along, but a part of you was tired even then. So you built something no one else could reach, an inward room, a gentler climate, a pace that made sense to your body. Home stopped being a roof and became a sanctuary, a private ecosystem, where your tone didn't have to rise, where your face didn't have to be on, where you weren't in danger of being misunderstood. That's why some people light up when they turn the key in the door. That's the moment their real day starts. Psychologists often say people who crave home are sometimes highly sensitive to stimulation. Their brains don't just register sound and light, they absorb it. A busy mall, bright office, constant talking, notifications, music in the background, people moving around. What's manageable for others can feel like a flood to them. Quiet, then, isn't running away. Quiet is recalibration. It's the body saying, this is the level I can process life at, but it goes deeper than noise. Home is also where we get to take off the costume. All day we wear what I call the public self, the one that knows how to make small talk, how to nod at the right parts, how to behave in the meeting, how to crack a joke so people relax. That self is useful. It keeps the world turning, but it's still a costume. When the door shuts, the mask slides off. What's left is the unedited version, the one that doesn't need to impress, fix, entertain, or charm. That person rarely gets airtime in public, but at home, that's the star. It's odd, isn't it, how you can spend the whole day around co-workers, classmates, customers, or even relatives and feel completely unseen. Yet you can sit alone beside a window with a warm drink and feel absolutely known to yourself. That's the secret of solitude. It isn't disconnection. It's intimacy turned inward. You finally have enough silence to hear your own thoughts without other people's opinions layered on top. The problem is, our culture still romanticizes constant activity. We clap for extroversion, non-stop networking, full calendars, shared pictures, loud laughter. We call sitting still wasting time. We suspect quiet people of being sad. But there is a fierce kind of strength in people who can enjoy their own company. They've discovered what many never do. Meaning doesn't only live in crowds. Sometimes it lives in the pauses, in the slow afternoons, in the unposted moments. Old wisdom says something like, if you never look inward, you'll always feel like something is missing. People who love staying home aren't dodging life. They're aligning with their inner rhythm. That's how they process emotions that piled up during the day. That's how they recover from conversations that were too long or too shallow. That's how they reconnect with what feels true instead of what looks good. The outside world divides your identity into pieces. This version for work, this version for friends, this version for family. Home gathers those pieces back together. Of course, solitude isn't the same thing as isolation. Even the quietest souls need real human contact. They want to be known. But here's the twist. People who value staying home often end up with richer relationships. Why? Because they don't spend energy on 20 half friendships. They choose a few people with whom silence doesn't feel awkward. The kind of friend you can sit beside for an hour without talking, and no one panics. Presence over performance. Depth over noise. Research on solitude keeps finding the same thing. People who intentionally spend time alone tend to develop more creativity and better emotional understanding. Not because they're born smarter, but because they slow down enough to actually feel what they feel. Instead of drowning in emotions, they name them. Instead of reacting, they reflect. In that quiet, patterns appear. Old wounds start healing without fanfare. Solutions float to the surface because there's finally room for them. Think about your biggest insights, the sudden clarity that changed how you saw someone, the decision that finally felt right, the idea that made you excited again. Chances are it didn't arrive in the middle of a noisy dinner. It showed up in the shower, on the edge of your bed at midnight, on a slow walk, or while you washed dishes. That's what staying home gives you, mental space for the mind to speak. Without that space, everything stays fuzzy. But a lot of home lovers carry secret shame. They see friends constantly traveling, going out, posting parties and gatherings, and they wonder, am I doing life wrong? Social media set a fake standard. If it's not public, it's not happening. So people who genuinely feel restored by being home sometimes push themselves out when what they actually need is to stay in. They forget that what's posted is curated joy, not full reality. Almost everyone is chasing peace. Some people just find it on the couch instead of on a plane. The need for a place to withdraw is ancient. Long before apartments and studio setups and Pinterest bedrooms, people climbed mountains, sat beside rivers, or entered monasteries to quiet the noise. Today, the mountain is a living room. The temple is a bedroom lit with a lamp. The cave is a reading corner. The impulse is the same. I need to step away to hear myself again. There's science behind why home feels so different. When you're in a place your brain perceives as safe, the body reduces its stay alert chemicals. Stress hormones calm down. Muscles unclench. That's why people often cry in the shower or in bed late at night, but not in the middle of the workday. The armor is finally off. Feelings that were on hold flood in. It's not weakness. That's healing dressed up as quiet. People who don't get this will say, you should go out more. You're wasting your youth. Life is outside. What they miss is that life also happens inside. Some of the deepest changes a person goes through happen when no one sees. Reading a book that shifts your worldview. Writing a page that helps you forgive. Journaling through anger instead of dumping it on someone. Imagining the future you want. Those are revolutions too, just private ones. Routine plays a big role. The mind loves predictability because it lowers anxiety. Knowing where your mug is, which chair you like, which blanket you pull over you, when the light hits your wall in the morning. None of that is boring. For someone wired for peace, those rituals are medicine. Lighting the same candle, making the same tea, watering the same plant is the body's way of saying, you're safe, you're home, you're allowed to rest. That's not monotony. That's regulation. And once you're regulated, something beautiful happens. Your inner world starts to bloom. When life isn't a rush, you notice things most people step over. The way rain sounds different on the roof than on the window. The pattern the sun makes on the floor at 4 p.m. The tiny relief after finishing a task at your own pace. You realize you don't need an audience for joy. Joy can be private. Quiet happiness counts too, Not everyone will understand that. For some, silence feels like a punishment, a room where every insecurity is magnified. They need constant motion to drown out their own thoughts. That doesn't make them bad, just differently wired. But because society praises their way of living, the gentler ones are made to feel defective. In reality, they're just tuned to a softer frequency. It's no surprise so many creators and thinkers guard their alone time. Painters, writers, composers, designers, half their work is listening inward. It's not that they dislike people. It's that they can't create while constantly adjusting to other people's energy. They need what one writer called a room of one's own, not always literally, but psychologically. A corner where their thoughts can arrive unedited, unjudged, and unperformed. Psychology keeps finding the same thread. People who can be with themselves without freaking out tend to know themselves better. They're less likely to be yanked around by trends, less likely to do things just to be accepted, less likely to need constant praise. When you spend enough time in quiet, you can tell what's your voice and what's the echo of everyone else's. That difference is where wisdom lives. This doesn't mean home lovers never feel lonely. They do. But their loneliness is particular. It isn't, I need people, any people. It's, I want the right person. They'd rather sit alone than sit with people who drain them or make them shrink. That's not pride. That's discernment learned from years of paying attention to energy. So when they meet someone safe, they love steady, loyal, and deeply. They don't scatter affection, they pour it. There's another layer people don't talk about much. Some fall in love with home because they're exhausted, not just peaceful. Exhausted from being misread. Exhausted from performing at work, at family events, at social gatherings. Exhausted from always needing to be on. For them, coming home and immediately needing to lie down isn't laziness. It's emotional decompression. The moment the door clicks, the body finally exhales what it held in all day. That flop on the bed moment is the nervous system whispering, we made it. You can drop everything now. A lot of these people are highly empathetic. They don't just hear what others say, they feel it. They pick up tension, micro changes in tone, disappointment that wasn't voiced, irritation behind a smile. Their radar is always on. Being around many people for many hours means taking in waves of emotional data. That is beautiful, but it's tiring. So they retreat not to cut people off, but to come back balanced, gentle, and clear. When you look closely, you realize this isn't about superiority or introvert versus extrovert wars. It's about rhythm. Some humans are built for stimulation. They chase cities, crowds, events, adventures. That's their oxygen. Others are built for reflection. They thrive on pattern, peace, order, and familiar space. Neither is wrong. But because the world often claps louder for the first group, the second learns to doubt itself. In truth, both are needed. The world needs people who make waves and people who make sense of waves. And that's the gift of the stay-at-home souls. When they do step outside, when they show up to the event, the dinner, the meeting, they don't bring more noise. They bring calm. Their presence doesn't demand attention, it settles the room. They've spent enough time listening to themselves that they don't need to compete. That's why being around a truly grounded, home-loving person feels restful. They're not looking for you to complete their peace. They already found it in their living room. So if you're the kind of person who'd rather stay in than chase every weekend plan, stop apologizing. Stop letting people make you feel like stillness equals failure. You are not missing life. You are experiencing it at a humane speed. You are doing work that doesn't show up on timelines. Self-regulation, reflection, healing, choosing slower friendships, building a space that loves you back. That work is real. Because when the world gets chaotic, when everyone is scrambling for meaning, it's usually the quiet ones who are already anchored. They've practiced finding contentment in ordinary moments. The light through curtains, the smell of coffee, the tap of rain, the steady pulse in their own chest. They've trained themselves to belong to a place even when nobody is watching. That kind of peace can't be bought, borrowed, or performed. In the end, a home is more than an address. It's evidence of peace you chose. It's walls that have heard your laughter and your crying and didn't tell on you. It's objects you picked because they calm you. It's routines that mended you. It's the space where you met yourself repeatedly until you believed you were worth meeting. People might think staying home means you've given up. Often it means the opposite. You've finally stopped running from yourself. There's a strange freedom in no longer chasing every invite, every trend, every outing that promises excitement but leaves you drained. You realize joy doesn't always need witnesses. Some of the sweetest moments are unseen. The warm oven, the sound of a storm outside while you're dry, the afternoon sun crawling across your floor, the feeling of your breathing slowing down. You notice details because you're present. You return to your own mind because nobody else is occupying it. We live in a world that confuses visibility with value. If we're not seen, we think we don't exist. But fading from public view is sometimes the only way to come back into focus for yourself. Quiet living isn't disappearing. It's finally existing without an audience. It's learning that connections don't die because you didn't post. Dreams don't die because you didn't announce them. Progress doesn't die because nobody clapped. So yes, some people love staying home. Not because life outside is worthless, but because life inside is rich. They're not fleeing life. They're walking toward it slowly, carefully, without the noise. They're choosing to feel, not to perform. And sometimes, the bravest, loudest, most revolutionary act is to sit in a quiet room and decide, I am enough like this.